The rain hammered down like a relentless war, blurring the world in sheets of cold water. A lone boot crashed hard into a puddle, splashing murky water outward as if challenging the storm itself. In the alley's shadowed maze, a man stumbled forward, each step a battle against the raging beast clawing inside his body. His breaths came ragged, uneven, warfare in every inhale and exhale. He didn't know how long he could hold on, how long the fragile thread of control would last. But then, right before him, framed in the storm's chaos, stood a beacon of hope. Hope, soaked but unwavering, standing still in the rain. Yet fate was cruel. His footing betrayed him. Balance lost, grip slipping away. The drug that tamed his inner monster was fading fast, its power draining like the storm's ceaseless pour. Pain roared through his veins, a wild drum beating in sync with the pounding rain. Heavy and relentless. Across the alley, 3 shadowed figures watched, silent and ominous, their eyes gleaming with dark intent. Trouble was coming. Earlier. Behind this chaos, a small building stood, untouched by the storm's wrath, a cozy refuge with vintage charm. Olivia stepped through its door, exhaustion woven into her every movement, a tired beauty in her late 20s. "Excuse me, boss," she called softly, voice mingling with the sharp shing of a knife slicing through thick flesh. A burly man in his 40s stood with his back to her, an apron tied around his waist, focused on cutting a large fish into perfect pieces. His movements were deliberate, each thwack echoing like a metronome of seriousness. "Think I could get an advance on this month's pay?" Olivia asked, voice laced with hesitant hope. His back remained turned. "Not this again. I gave you an advance last month." She bit her lip, pleading again. "Please, you know how Luna is." "I don't want to hear it." His voice cracked sharply. Olivia recoiled, clutching her arm, disappointment shadowing her face. Whenever she mentioned her daughter, it struck a nerve. He spun around, slamming his hand on the table, voice breaking with dramatic sorrow. "It just makes me want to cry," he sobbed, clutching his chest, theatrical but raw. "Poor you," he cried out. "Sick daughter, cheating husband." "He didn't cheat on me," Olivia defended quietly, awkward laughter slipping out at his emotional display. He sighed, relenting. "Fine, but this is the last time." Relief flooded Olivia's face. "Thanks, boss." She exhaled, feeling the weight lift. "That should cover this month's prescription," she murmured, hand on her chest. The boss nodded and went inside to get the money. When he returned, he muttered, "Never lose sight of yourself, no matter what life throws at you. A healthy mind keeps the household happy." "And you need money for that," Olivia teased with a smirk. "I'm heading out now," she said, fingers on the doorknob. "Wait, look at your shirt," her boss called. She glanced down to see a fresh mud stain. Confused, tired, and frustrated, she groaned inwardly. What if she ran into Max later? "I'll change quick," she promised, and left. The storm raged as Olivia made her way home. Then, a figure caught her eye, collapsed in the cold rain, lying motionless on the wet ground. "What's wrong with him? Why is he just—" Shock froze her. Blood pooled beneath the stranger. Fear clutched her throat, but she rushed closer. "Hello? Are you okay?" Her voice trembled, worry flooding through her veins. The man groaned, eyes fluttering open. Though blurry, he saw her face. "Hello? Are you okay?" she repeated, relief softening her panic. Suddenly, he gripped her hand, pushing himself up. The umbrella slipped from Olivia's grasp as rain drenched them both. "Don't leave me," he whispered, voice ragged with exhaustion. Olivia was stunned, caught in the depth of his gaze, eyes full of raw vulnerability and silent plea. She froze in confusion. Inside her modest home, Olivia struggled to support him, dragging his heavy frame inside. His injured leg knocked over a stool. A letter fluttered to the floor unnoticed. "Come pick up Luna tomorrow morning. Happy birthday in advance. Max Dot." She hadn't seen it. She laid him down on her narrow bed couch. Breathless, she sank beside him. What was she thinking? Bringing a stranger into her home, someone she didn't even know. What if he was dangerous? An assassin? A thief? Someone with deadly intent? But he looked broken, helpless. Could she just leave him to die out there? Her heart warred with her fear. She tore open his shirt, revealing brutal wounds. Flinching at the sight of how bad his wound is, she gasped. But aside that, his body was stunning, muscular and fierce beneath the blood and grime. Her thoughts scattered. Why am I even noticing this now? Someone was dying, and here she was, distracted by his form. Her trembling fingers reached for her phone. She dialed emergency, ready to call for help. But then, Julia? His weak voice stopped her cold. Before she could react, he pulled her down, strong arms wrapping around her waist, holding her tight. Let me go, she struggled, panic rising. But how could she fight? His grip was iron. She was definitely no match, his presence overwhelming. Breath hitching, she stopped resisting. Her hands clutched his shirt. Without meaning to, she drew his neck down. Their lips met in a fierce, desperate kiss, wild and soaked with rain. Her mind reeled. Was he always this attractive? Electric tension crackled between them. Her phone lay forgotten on the floor. Midnight struck. A message glowed. I hope you have an unforgettable day. But all she could feel was the fire burning between them. Lost in the moment, surrendering. How did she go from helping a stranger to this? The rain continued pouring in violent sheets. Inside, time forgot how to move. Olivia and the stranger were entangled in a fever dream. Mouths locked, breaths stolen, their bodies drawn together like magnets in a storm. His fingers traced the curve of her bare back with agonizing precision. Then, rip. Her blouse gave way under his hand, and a soft, helpless moan escaped her lips. But the heat between them cracked. Something strange began. The bullet buried in his side shifted, then fell. His wounds, gaping just moments ago, began to close like time had reversed. No blood, no pain, only silence. Then it came, a whisper in his skull. Wake up! He flinched but didn't pull away, lips still on Olivia's. Then, wake up! A shout, like thunder inside his brain. His mind spiraled. Flashes, a man's voice screaming, accusing. You killed her! You killed Julia! Guilt sank its claws into him. He froze, then a woman, standing in front of him, pale, familiar. His heart stopped. Julia! He gasped, eyes wide. And just like that, he snapped out of it. The living room, the storm still howling outside. A woman in his arms, not Julia. Confused, breathless, reeling, he pushed her back just enough to look at her. What happened? He asked, voice low, eyes wild. Flashes surged again. A car crash. Two drivers arguing, his own exhaustion swallowing him whole. Then, across the road, a glimpse. Her. Julia? Ghost or not, he followed. Then thugs. A fight broke out, followed by gunshots. Pain. And now, no wounds. Just this woman. This stranger. Wrapped in his arms. He stared at her. Her scent clung to him like déjà vu. Like Julia. He pulled her closer. Why? Did she smell like her? Olivia trembled. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered, heart in her throat. But he wasn't listening. In a blink, he flipped her, pinned her beneath him on the couch, eyes burning, voice low. Who are you? Why did you bring me here? His gaze drilled into her, searching, desperate, for the truth. Elsewhere in the building, a small apartment sat in quiet order. A framed photo on a table. An ID card beside it. Steam curled from a fresh cup of coffee. In the bathroom, Max stood under the shower, water rushing over his skin. He frowned, sensing something. A voice. Max. Barely audible. Then louder, closer. Max! His chest tightened. Chills spiked up his spine. Olivia? He called out, unsure. The scream tore through the air again. Panic hit him like a wave. He darted out, barefoot, soaked, towel barely hanging on. He raced down the hall, heart thundering. Bang, bang, bang! He slammed into Olivia's door until it cracked open, splinters flying. Inside, Olivia gasping like she'd just escaped death. Eyes wide, chest heaving. He ran to her. Olivia, what happened? She pointed, wordless, toward the living room, still breathless, shaking. Max took her hand, steadying her trembling fingers as they walked in. Step by step. The living room was a wreck. Books and stuffs overturned, table cracked, curtains half torn, but empty, gone. No sign of the man. Olivia stared in horror. Where did he go? She whispered. But there was no answer, just the echo of her own question. And the smell of rain. Was it a dream? No. Those bloodstains were real. Olivia stared at them, frozen. Max stepped forward, worried, asking if she was hurt, suggesting they call the police. But the word police made her flinch hard. That was the last thing she needed. She quickly brushed it off, claiming she was fine, said it was probably the wind. Calling the cops would only mess up her work schedule, and she'd already taken an advance for Luna's meds. Max didn't buy her story. Wind? With blood on the ground? But he knew he couldn't push. He didn't have the right to. He told her to reach out if anything like this happened again. She gave a small nod. As he turned to leave, he glanced back at her, like something was stuck in his throat. Then he finally asked her to come watch a play with him sometime. But Olivia didn't hear him. She was too lost in thought. He had to call her back to reality. Startled, she apologized, said she'd think about it. She subtly tugged at the ripped back of her blouse as he walked out. She collapsed onto the couch with a heavy sigh, raising something to the light. A bullet. And she was sure it came from him. But how had he escaped? In that condition? Who even was he? Far across the city, a towering skyscraper gleamed under the night sky. Inside, in a luxurious room, the wounded man sat on his bed, injecting something into his side. He let out a low groan. Just then, the door burst open. Damian! A young man in a sharp suit rushed in. He looked at the injury by Damian's ribs and fired off questions. Where had he been? Who attacked him? Damian answered flatly, thugs. Alley. That only raised more questions. What was he doing there in the first place? I was hallucinating, he muttered. Again? The young man, Russell snapped. He reminded Damian, for the 100th time, that abusing the drug would only worsen the migraines. The hallucinations would keep getting worse. But Damian didn't respond. He walked to a lab stand lined with test tubes. You can still live like a normal human if you lower your dosage, Russell pleaded. You make it sound as if the doctor formulated this, Damian replied dryly, pressing liquid into a vial. Even he's barely surviving. You know the phrase, physician, heal thyself. Damian's expression darkened. His voice dropped, hoarse, threatening. I know where you're going with this, Russell. His fingers suddenly shifted. Nails stretched into claws, bones cracked, his skin ripped, fur burst through. Heartbeat like war drums. His eyes burned gold. Then a howl tore through the room. The man was gone. Only the beast remained. Now, in a reinforced cage, Damian sat calmly. In an age where werewolves are hunted, we survive because of one thing, ISP, he narrated. A drug I created, derived from wolfsbane, the same plant humans once used to wipe out our kind. He explained how his father first extracted it to suppress their instincts. Damian had tried to refine it, make it safe, stable. That attempt became a breakthrough, and from it, his pharmaceutical company, Recued, was born. He remembered something. Her. The migraines were gone. His body had calmed. All because of her. He handed a small piece of ripped cloth to Russell, a piece of her blouse. "Find her," he said. "She's the key to the new ISP dot." Russell agreed but paused at the door. And what about him? Elsewhere, in a club drowned in bass and neon, crowds danced, drank, and screamed. A shadow moved through the hallway, all covered. In another room were men and women drowning in sinful pleasures, but one man sat alone, sipping his drink like none of it mattered. The doors burst open. A figure stepped in, cold, composed, deadly. He walked through the noise like it didn't exist. He approached the man. "I told you not to make me come find you," he said. Then, without warning, boom! He landed a heavy punch to the man's face. Screams erupted. Chaos exploded. The room cleared in seconds. Blood dripped. The man raised his head. His name was Silas. The air in the room was thick, not just from silence, but from everything unspoken. Turner stood there, gaze cutting straight through Silas. He didn't need to shout to start a fire. One sentence was enough, cold, accusing. "So you've given up on killing your father and brother, huh?" Silas didn't flinch. But that question hit somewhere deep. He snapped back, irritated, asking why Turner chased him all the way here like some desperate hunter. The man was acting like he was the one seeking revenge, not him. Something shifted in Turner's face. The calm cracked. He clenched his jaw, fists curling. That look alone spoke volumes. "I took you in because I thought you were a wolf." His voice dropped low, deadly, not some whining whelp. That broke something in Silas. The cup in his hand shattered, the rage in his eyes flared, feral and unforgiving. Before anyone could blink, he lunged. A fist slammed into Turner's face, hard. Trays flew, plates crashed, the whole table groaned under the chaos. And then they hit the floor, Silas on top, his hand around Turner's throat, choking him like he'd finally snapped. His voice came out in a low growl, threatening, dangerous, a warning not to push him again. But Turner didn't resist. He smiled, strangely satisfied. Like this was what he wanted all along. With effort, he pried Silas's hand off his neck and stood. Dusting himself off, he simply said, "Come. We've got work to do." Under the cool evening, the glowing sign of moon dance glimmered in gold. Inside, Olivia was in the changing room, pulling off her blouse, phone wedged between her shoulder and ear. She was talking to Minsun, checking in on Luna, her daughter. Minsun reported she was asleep after whining for a while that she was hungry. Olivia then told her about her torn shirt, and Minsun, as usual, was dramatic, complaining about the shirt Olivia tore, an expensive one, apparently. Olivia apologized quickly, guilt washing over her. But before she could explain, Minsun jumped to conclusions. Was it Max? Olivia nearly choked. Her voice turned defensive, awkward. She denied everything, but Minsun didn't sound convinced. They wrapped up the call. Olivia exhaled sharply, like she'd just survived a mini war. Dating? Now? She didn't even have time to breathe properly. She searched through her bag and froze. Her fingers brushed something cold and metallic. The bullet, the one from that night. Her heart skipped. Just the thought of Damian's touch made her skin prickle. Her chest tightened. Her heartbeat slammed like a drum against her ribs. She shook her head and slammed a locker door to snap herself out of it. It was a mistake. One that's not happening again. Behind her, the outside door creaked open. She didn't notice. Turner and Silas walked in, quiet and tense. They looked around. Empty room. Good. Turner slid a book across the table. Inside, details of their first target. No ties, no one to come looking. Silas flipped through it casually. and asked if the target was meant to be the new beta, Turner confirmed, emphasizing on how he doesn't want this one to go wrong like the others. As he made mockery of a moment Silas was almost at the mercy of a beast, looking frightened like life would leave him any moment. Silas burst as he slammed his fist on the table, telling Turner to shut it. Then, a scent. Familiar, sharp, intoxicating. His eyes locked on the locker room door. He moved slowly, drawn like a hound. Turner called after him, but he didn't hear. He opened the door and saw her, Olivia. Her back was to him. She spun, startled. Her voice rose, telling him to leave. This was a female locker room. But Silas didn't speak. He walked toward her, slow, controlled. Something about her scent. It was Julia's. He grabbed her, held her close, inhaled deeply. Olivia screamed, struggling against his grip. But he wasn't seeing her anymore, only the scent. Then bullets and blood. Damian's blood? It was on her, around her. Why? His thoughts turned dark. His body started shaking. The pain hit instantly. A wild groan tore from his throat as his vision blurred. He stumbled back, clutching his head. Turner burst in, eyes wide. Too late. Veins bulged. Eyes turned beast black. Silas was gone. The man had vanished and the monster had arrived. Turner didn't hesitate. He pulled the trigger. One shot. Blood hit the lockers like paint. Silas dropped, lifeless. Olivia couldn't breathe. Her scream cracked the silence like thunder. Her knees gave out as her world turned red. She'd never seen a man die like that, and never thought it would feel this personal. She stared at Silas, her eyes wide with horror. And then, Turner moved. Slow, deliberate steps toward her, like a predator closing in. Every part of her screamed to run, but her feet wouldn't move. Panic strangled her voice as she shouted for them to stay away. Turner pulled something from his coat, a white cloth. Calm, cold, calculated. He reached out. She thrashed violently, fighting him off with every ounce of strength. Her breath turned ragged, her limbs weakened. The sharp chemical scent overwhelmed her senses. Then, darkness. The pounding came next, loud, relentless. A voice calling her name, faint at first, then louder, sharper, until her eyes snapped open. Her chest heaved. Bang! The door burst open. Her boss stood there, irritation painted across his face. His words blurred together, questions, accusations, confusion. But Olivia wasn't listening. She sat up slowly, trembling, still caught between reality and whatever she just came out of. She pointed at the far corner, the one drenched in blood just moments ago. Her voice trembled as she tried to explain. But nothing. No bodies, no blood, no broken furniture, just a spotless room, like nothing ever happened. Her heart pounded. She could have sworn. She remembered everything, the scent, the fear, the bloodstains on the cabinets. It couldn't have been a dream. Could it? A sharp ache shot through her skull, silencing her thoughts. Her boss dismissed her panic as sleep-induced nonsense, told her to quit daydreaming and get back to work. Then he left, grumbling under his breath. Olivia sat frozen, doubting her sanity. Everything had felt too vivid, too real. But how else could she explain it? Maybe it was just a dream. That couldn't have really happened, right? A grand cathedral came into view, its towering walls crowned by a massive cross, glowing softly on the far wall. In a quiet corner, a nun was carefully lighting candles, while a priest stood nearby. Not just any priest, but Turner. He held a bullet between his fingers, eyes fixed on it as thoughts churned in his mind. Who would have thought Damian Brown, the mighty Damian Brown, could be shot? Maybe the rumors about his illness were true, but thinking back, they'd almost landed in deep trouble. At least Silas was taken care of. Turner recalled the cold act of burying Silas's body in secret. That was done. Nothing left to worry about. Yet, Olivia's name lingered in his thoughts. Who was she really? And what was her connection to Damian Brown? He needed to dig deeper. Soon. "Father!" a voice called out, pulling Turner back. He quickly hid the bullet as two young men approached. He asks on what account were they visiting on a Wednesday. Brother Andreas, the taller of the two, explained that he was preparing to star as the lead in a play on Saturday and wanted Turner to attend. The man beside him introduced himself as Max Reynolds, the scriptwriter. Max shook Turner's hand warmly, praising his recent sermon. Andreas added how he met Max abroad, at a station overseas. "That's right," Max said with a soft chuckle. "I used to be a war correspondent. Now I'm just a regular reporter." Turner's curiosity piqued as he asked him, "What beat are is on? Culture? Social affairs?" Max smiled and talked about how he's been thinking about social affairs and his plans to go into it in the future, but for now he just wants to cover celebrity lifestyles. Andreas leaned in, hopeful. "Think you can make it to the play?" Turner shook his head, claiming he will be busy that day. Disappointment flickered on Andreas's face, but quickly masked itself. "I wanted to save you a VIP seat, but no worries. There's always next time." He bowed politely, and Turner nodded in return. As they left, Andreas teased Max quietly. "Did you invite Olivia? The single hot mom you've got a thing with?" Max laughed nervously. "Nothing like that. We're just friends, looking out for each other." From a distance, Turner scoffed, watching their backs. "Yeah, wishing you well, that's what priests do." His gaze hardened, sending a silent warning in their direction. Night crept in with a quiet hum. Inside a modest apartment, the air buzzed with two completely different energies. Minsun was all sunshine and chatter, practically bouncing as she held Luna in her arms. But Olivia was withdrawn, her movements distracted, her mind clouded. She was packing a small backpack, going through the motions, but her thoughts were elsewhere. Everything felt off lately. Too many strange things. The night with Damian that made no sense, and now this disturbing dream that refused to let go. She didn't even hear Minsun at first, not until her name was shouted, snapping her back to reality. That's when Minsun started teasing, dragging Olivia into the swirl of real-life things. Talk of dates, of dresses, of men, of maximum. Luna asked innocent questions. Minsun stirred the pot. Olivia denied everything, but even she couldn't keep her thoughts straight anymore. Maybe a distraction wasn't such a bad idea. Minsun reappeared with a simple dress, elegant, but not flashy. Olivia hesitated. It felt like too much. But Minsun wouldn't take no for an answer. The teasing continued until Olivia's carefully guarded emotions began to show. The confusion, the hesitation, the possibility, even the suggestion of a kiss made her freeze, but instead of brushing it off, a part of her lingered in the thought. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad after all. As the city woke to morning light, one building towered above the rest. Recued. Its top floor, sleek and shining, whispered wealth and power. The CEO's office sat like a crown. Polished floors, glass walls, and silence that masked the storm already brewing. Damian Brown. Mysterious, magnetic, untouchable. A pharmaceutical magnate who rose from obscurity to notoriety overnight. Whispers followed him like a shadow. Some claimed he was the illegitimate heir of a renowned CEO. Others painted him as the hidden lover of a high-profile official. But more recently, the headlines twisted darker. Rumors of addiction, a rare disease, and a theory. Recued's obsessive research into bizarre medical conditions wasn't philanthropy. It was survival. His own. Max exhaled deeply, rubbing his temple as he read through yet another article draft. Now it all made sense, his editor's obsession with Recued. But why the fixation on Damian's private life? Shouldn't they be digging into his labs, his business practices? Yet the pressure kept mounting, and Max's headache throbbed in rhythm with it. Inside Mr. Reynolds' sleek office, Max sat stiffly. By his side, Damian Brown, unreadable behind cold eyes. His secretary sat like a barrier between them. The interview began. Max asked a question. The secretary answered. Politely, Max insisted he needed Damian's response. The room stilled. Damian stood. The dismissal came sharp and swift. The meeting was over. But Max wasn't done. He needed anything to crack open this man. He called out. Damian paused mid-step, turning slowly. Max pressed again. A simple question. What had piqued his interest lately? The secretary intervened, already denying the personal angle. But Max didn't stop. Something in Damian cracked. A sharp pain bloomed in his skull like a spike behind his eyes. This reporter was a goddamn parasite. Irritating. Nothing, he muttered, his voice low. Sorry? Max asked, innocently enough. Nothing, Damian repeated, louder now, each syllable laced with rising venom. Get out! His patience had thinned to glass. As Max was escorted out, he cast one last glance back. Damian stood alone in the office, hand gripping his head, eyes glassy with exhaustion. He looked like he was barely holding himself together. Maybe? The rumors were true after all. A car screeched to a stop in front of a modest apartment building. Russell stepped out, eyes scanning the structure as he spoke into the phone. Damian's voice crackled faintly on the other end, urging him to hurry. Russell hung up and headed inside, followed by a man. The air inside was quiet, deceptively so. He knocked. The door creaked open and a girl peeked out, short, brown-haired, curious. Russell grabbed her and sniffed her like a bloodhound. Minson froze, completely stunned. She's the one, he muttered, confused. She didn't match the description. Blonde, tall. This wasn't her. He let her go. Minson recoiled, furious. What the hell is wrong with you? But Russell wasn't listening. He turned to his partner, already walking away. Wrong girl, let's go. No explanation, no apology. Hey, aren't you going to explain yourselves? Minson shouted after them. But they were already gone. She stood in the hallway, baffled and burning with frustration. What the hell just happened? Why were people acting so damn weird lately? Night rolled in like a wave. Max stood in front of Olivia's door, fidgeting, uncertain. He blamed Tommy for the awkward tension, that stupid joke about him and Olivia being a thing. They were just friends, right? He knocked. The door opened almost immediately, and for a moment his breath caught in his throat. Olivia stood there, radiant. Her dress hugged her frame perfectly, her makeup soft but mesmerizing. She was beautiful, painfully so. You look great today, she said, breaking the silence. Max finally blinked and stammered out a compliment, assuring her she looked incredible. She laughed softly, unsure if she'd pulled it off. He reassured her she was perfect. Outside, the rain began to fall. Max excused himself to grab an umbrella. Olivia nodded and moved to the window, watching as droplets streaked down the glass. Thunder cracked in the distance, and just like that, her thoughts slipped back. To that night. The one that started it all. Somewhere unknown, drenched in mud and blood, a man murmured a name. Julia! His body was broken, barely alive, dreaming. In the vision, he chased a glowing figure through the mist, an angelic woman with her back turned. He reached for her, desperate. He caught her hand. She turned. Not Julia. It was Olivia. His eyes shot open with a gasp, breath ragged. His hand burst from the soil. Buried. Alive. And the one pulling him out? Turner. The rain poured in sheets around them, thunder rolling overhead. Evening, Silas, Turner said with a smirk. Sweet dreams? Silas spat mud and blood onto the wet earth as he stood up fully. They were bitter as hell, he muttered. The smell of rain, mixing with that of danger. Hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, tap the like button to show your support, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you're first to know when the next video drops.